Hey there everyone, Mazrock here, and today I want to ask her a couple of generic, frequently asked questions that I get for beginner tanks. Before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe. It goes such a long way to helping out the channel. We're almost at 2,500 at recording this, and I'm always blown away. If you do have any questions as well, you can hit me up on Twitch, link down below, as well as a community Discord. And any week or LVI profiles or anything you see there can be gotten from that Discord as well. And lastly, there is a Patreon link down below and a key review video link down below as well. There's lots of good stuff. Easy ways to get a hold of me, all the good stuff. The number one question I get is, what tank should I play? And while, yes, there is a meta and some tanks are above the rest in certain content, especially in the highest end of keys, unless you're planning on doing those highest end of keys, do whichever one that you have the most amount of fun with. If it's Prot Warrior, Bear, Blood Death Knight, Paladin, whatever it is your option, pick that one. If that's the one you have the most fun playing, that's the one that you're going to have the most fun digging into the nitty-gritty of it and finding all those little minute things that specific spec is insanely good at. Because if you're tanking on a spec that you're not having fun with, you're just not going to care, right? It's not that you're just not going to care, but you're not going to be as willing to go into the deeper context of really what it can do aside from just at surface level. For example, in 9.1, 9.1.5, I was getting into tanking for the first time since Cataclysm, and I was like, alright, my two options that I have the most amount of fun with are Warrior and Blood Death Knight. The two literally at the bottom of the totem pole. Almost nobody was playing Prot Warrior. Very few people are right now. And at the time, Blood Death Knight was a joke. Blood Death Knight hate was absolutely real in Pugs. Those two specs, I had a very difficult time getting into Pugs, and the moment I swapped to a meta tank for the YouTube channel and to get to know more specs, it's crazy how instant I was getting into any key that I wanted versus actually getting declined. But at the end of the day, I got my keys done. I had fun, I got my Keystone Master, I've gotten 3K on multiple tanks this season. You can really do it on any one, but if you're not having fun at the spec you're playing, it's probably not the right one for you, whether it's meta or not. Another frequently asked question that I get, and this tends to be a little bit more spec related, but I'm going to generalize it, is why do I feel so squishy? And this is a multi-pronged answer. Number one, if you look at a lot of the best in slot lists, you're going to notice that there's a lot of DPS options, DPS trinkets for the most part, that are kind of your best in slot options. Well, yes, those are your best in slot options. Those are also more DPS based as long as you're playing your spec fully optimally and correctly. And while you're learning how to tank, those might not be the best options. You might want more defensive based trinkets, right? And make them work for you. If they help you live and they help you live through mechanics, while you're learning the spec until the point where you feel like you just don't need them anymore to live and you've got your rotation correct on defensives and you know when to roll what and things are working out for you, there's just kind of not a lot of need for those defensive trinkets if you're dying, you know what I mean? So that's number one. Take a look at your trinkets and play something more defensively if you're being a little bit squishy. The other one is positioning. Now, tank positioning is very important in World of Warcraft because one of the main things that a lot of tanks have is dodge, block, and parry. But the thing is if your back is to a mob, you can't do any of those. So it's very important to try and stay positioned and keep the mobs positioned so your back is constantly not exposed. And sometimes you're going to have to kite. Right? It's just going to have to happen sometimes. I know how much I would much prefer just to face tank everything at every moment in time, but sometimes things get too stacked up, you got quite a few stacks of bleed on you or something, and you need to move around. So when you're trying to kite away, an important thing to do, now I'm going to give an example on Death Knight, but everybody has their own thing. Sometimes it's Ring of Peace, Ursol's Vortex, Shockwave for stun, whatever have you not. You never want to turn your back, right? That's the last thing you want to do. That's how you can easily get clapped or take a lot of damage that did not need to happen. But you can pop a death and decay, and kind of zigzag your way back while they're kind of moving around and still around you in bad positioning. So let's say you've put yourself in here, I would zigzag out a little bit and then backpedal. So then that way you're always positioning yourself correctly. And lastly, you can always just backpedal. Backpedal is a fairly important thing to do as tanking. But one of the things that you can do while it's kind of, I guess, micro-kiting would be the best way to call it, is you can actually stay. Look at the range of Heartstrike here, right? This is a fairly long range, but at this range, most mobs are not going to be able to hit you. So what you can do is stay within range and constantly just use little micro backpedals like that. And what that will do is it will cancel the auto attack melees that the mobs will do, because then they're going to have to stop and move, and then they're going to have to start that process again. And if you're constantly starting and stopping off the process of them trying to hit you, it's going to kind of alleviate a lot of damage that's going to occur. And if you look at the breakdown of a Mythic Plus run, now this is more, this micro-kiting is a little bit more for Mythic Plus, less for Raid, because raiding, the bosses are a lot bigger, have a lot bigger area of hit and things like that. But most of the damage that you are going to take, if you accumulate, if you look at details, all of your damage taken, the most amount of your damage you're going to take is from just regular old melee hits. Yes, some things are going to hit harder, but the thing is they're infrequent, can be stunned, can be planned, can be defensive, and things like that. But the thing that is going to hit you for the most amount of damage in a run is just the regular old melee swing. And that includes bosses, that includes every mob you're going to do. If you tabulate that, it's going to be a large percentage. Anywhere from 60 to like 80% of the incoming damage is going to be just regular old melee hits. So those are some ways that you can kite around, micro-kite, and still actually, like, here they can't hit me. Look at the distance here, but I can hit them. I have just enough range where I can get out and move and micro-kite around. And you can just kind of do this little micro backpedaling, and it should help you save yourself from taking a lot of unnecessary damage. So those are some ways to help with the squishiness of your character. And of course, if you are going to kite, never turn your back. Always backpedal. If you're going to heroic leap, don't heroic leap where your back can be exposed and things like that. So those are a couple of ways to help with your squishiness. Lastly, I get a lot of questions about concerns about routing, because it's kind of the tank's job to lead the dungeon in a way that is efficient, to get all of your count, to not overcap or overcap by much. I mean, sometimes it does happen when you get an extra 4, 5, 6%. It's going to happen. At the end of the dungeon, you don't want to be at like 140, 150% count on your trash, and you're at the second boss and you're pretty much at 96% trash, right? That's not what you want to do. You want to try and keep that efficient. One of the things that you can do is Mythic Dungeon Tools. Mythic Dungeon Tools is an add-on that you can get. Now, I use CurseForge that has all of the current dungeons mapped out with all of the mobs, and you can quite literally set up polls and take a look around on a full map of what you need. So here I have a Solia's Gambit, in which I get my 53% count. This is how I enjoy it. Although here I remove this poll, and I've been using this one here to get to the exact same thing. Of course, this one, I just have to move there, but whatever. Learning to read this takes time and takes a little bit of familiarity with the dungeon, right? So you have to know that, hey, this is your start point. This is where you're going. And if I go over to like a Plaguefall that has most of the dungeon all in one, well, what are you looking at, right? You need to know the dungeon well enough to know that, hey, this is your start point. These are some of your mushrooms. You usually go right here. And then you can start planning around here. So, you can go run a couple of heroic dungeons and tank those in the straightest line possible, but just note where things are, where some things occur and things like that. In Mythic, some things obviously change from heroic, but you can take a look here and get familiar with this. And when I first started tanking, I spent a lot of time memorizing these dungeons, but at the same time, I didn't have the common knowledge that we have now in 9.2.5, 9.2.7, depending on what point you're watching. There was a lot of newness to the expansion when, you know, I was in and we were learning everything. So, as we're going along here, this is kind of the route that one of the routes that I've come up with. If you're learning how to route, keep things simple. Route, whatever. Keep things simple. This is a route that I use with pugs that are okay. I'll ask if they're okay to invis skip. If not, I use a different one. I have quite a few different routes all set up for Sanguine Depths, things like that, and you can share this with your party. If say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what's going on. I had, you know, Theater of Pain, and this here you can learn to kind of take what you want and be like, all right, I want all of these, and I want to go here, and I want to go there, and have a mental plan, and quite easily pull this up in a dungeon. And while you're learning the dungeon, it is absolutely fine for you to pull this up real quick and be like, okay, wait, I'm right here. Or wait, I'm right here, I just did this pack. What do I do? Okay, we go off to the boss. We're going here, we're pulling that. Cool, then we're going to go back to the market. We're going to pull these, we're going to do that. Okay, cool, I got it. And make sure that you have all of the count that you need to be able to get your dungeon right. But Mythic Dungeon Tools is a fantastic add-on for you to learn dungeons. And especially with the new upcoming season, we're getting 6 Mythic Plus dungeons that we haven't seen in years or are brand new to Mythic Plus. So this is going to be very popular for the first few weeks of the expansion. You're going to see tanks share what their route is or what their proposed route is in chat, but this will also allow DPS to, you know, be like, okay, we're pulling this, we're doing a 2-pack here, but you're pulling all of this, and this is big. I want cooldowns for this. Okay, cool, then we're going to do this, this, and that. Okay, cool. We got it here, all right. And it allows the DPS that know what they're doing to really look at this and be like, all right, I have cooldowns for this pack, this pack, this pack, this pack. We should be good. Let's go. And gives them an idea of what to expect from you, if you're going to keep it simple, if you're going to be a little complicated, and always announce your skips. If there's any skips that you're going to have, and this is a pattern that I've fallen badly into, is Halls of Atonement. Halls of Atonement has this skip right here. It always has. For almost the dawn of time, since Shadowlands has come out, people have been skipping this in Mythic Plus, and having invis pods is very, very important, and I do forget sometimes to ask, hey, do you have invis pods? Because guess what? We're skipping. We have WoW right now. We have a WoW option, but that's going away, but we're not necessarily going to have Halls of Atonement, but there is a skip in Gambit. Gambit's going to be the new common knowledge skip, where in Agrimar's Vault, you skip these 4. I never do these 4. I always skip them. Right now I rely on the WoW buff. But in the next expansion, I'm going to get rid of this pack, do this pack here, get my 53% count, skip that, do boss, clear out Borealis, and then skip this guy here, and then pull all of this, not together, but for the rest of my trash. That'll give me 100 total. With how I have things set up, I didn't have the Borealis trash counted into here because there's no point to do them, but to do them. So, Mythic Dungeon Tools is a fantastic add-on for all tanks, and if you're getting into tanking, this is one that you should absolutely have. Those are some beginner questions that I have. I know some of you may already know this knowledge and everything else, but you know what? Not everybody does, and I feel it's important to kind of talk and put it out in the open, and not just expect it to be common knowledge. Thank you very much for listening. Have yourselves a great day, and thank you very much for the support. Bye.